So it looks like the battle between Latasha Scott from Xscape and her group members is far from over. In a new interview in promotion of her new gospel album, Tasha's telling a story about some of their biggest records and how it was recorded. But in the storytelling of this, she's shading her fellow group members, Kandi and Tiny. Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your #1 source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. So the news of Xscape and them falling apart yet again continues. As you know, they have their new very popular show with SWV on Sunday nights on Bravo. They're not paying me, but it's been really good, and we've been having a good time talking about it and recapping it and dissecting. And honestly, I've been listening again to a lot of SWV records and Xscape records, very talented groups. But as you also know, there's been some real family drama happening between Latasha Scott and Tameka Scott. And I know a lot of you have been tagging me, did you see that her father did an interview? And I took a listen to a few minutes of the interview. And at this point, the toxicity of this family is a little draining. And I know some of you are tired of the reports about this back and forth, but I had to do and talk about this particular interview because it's a story. One of the things, if you remember me from Kempire Radio, one of my favorite series that we did was Behind the Songs, where I talked to a lot of songwriters who could tell us about the story. How did this song come about? Who was this song intended for originally? You can hear all of that on the Kempire Radio YouTube channel. So I was interested in hearing this story, but for this story to turn out to be shade was a whole other thing. As a real journalist, I'm kidding. Please understand I'm kidding. But I did take time to listen to the entire We Sound Crazy podcast with Latasha Scott. As you know, Latasha right now is promoting this new gospel album. And a lot of you were like, gospel, girl, you're being accused of stealing $30,000 from your sister. But as you know, yesterday we did a separate video talking about Latasha finally speaking out and telling her side of things. And a lot of you said nothing. And honestly, after listening to that 11-minute video 5 times, there were things that I picked up on. And probably the one resounding thing that I've discovered in all of this, I don't believe there's really one person to blame. I know watching this reality show makes us believe that it's just Latasha, but at the end of the day, I believe all of them play a part. And I know we have the 3 women touring now of Xscape, but we also had that in reverse before. So I don't believe it's just one particular person in this group. I think it's been one particular person at different times. Let's say that part. So in this interview with the We Sound Crazy podcast, they do talk about the history. She talks about why she decided to do this gospel album that originally was supposed to be her and her sister. Okay. But one of the producers of R&B Divas is also a part of this podcast platform and talked about, well, what I'm seeing on this particular show versus what we produced with R&B Divas, that's not the Rocky and Latasha that I know. And editing and producers can manipulate situations. And we know this too. Mona, come on, Mona. We know what you've done with Love and Hip Hop. But I also don't believe that there's great manipulation happening when it comes to Latasha and what we're getting from Rocky on this reality show, because the streets have been talking for a very long time, especially about Rocky. So she talks about why this gospel album now, recording with Mariah Carey, meeting Whitney Houston. And I have to say, yes, I think if we didn't have the drama that we were having right now, I probably would have felt very differently about this interview with Latasha. But Latasha's retelling of history is interesting because it's always centered focus. Although it was a group she was in, when she tells these stories of the past, it always seems to be about her place in that. We're almost very, very much like the Diana Ross, the Beyonce, the Gladys Knight of the situation. This might be my psychology degree going into effect, but I'm just always, and I don't want to say there's narcissism here because I feel like that word is thrown around so much nowadays, but I can tell in her telling of history, it's always center focused. It's always, when she was telling about the Whitney Houston story, And of course, her group wasn't there. But immediately, she tells, Whitney said, she's like, oh, what'd I tell you, Bobby, about Latasha? She has such control of her voice. Look, and I get it, in that moment, it was just her there. But I sense this energy about Latasha that she's always wanted to be solo. She's always wanted to be solo. We've said this before. If her solo career had popped off years ago, Latasha would not even be considering an Xscape reunion or touring with them at all. Let's be honest. However, before I get into my other thoughts on who might be involved in why this group continues to have issues over the years, I do want to talk about what she says in this conversation with We Sound Crazy, the podcast. So in regards to the Softest Place on Earth, honestly, hearing this music again, I was like, Xscape, SWV. The 90s was the best, y'all. It was the best. So she talks about the recording of this song. And you may recall, for the young ones out there that don't know who Joe is, literally, Joe is such a popular name, but Joe, if you talk about R&B music, but not even just R&B music, Joe transcended R&B and was crossover as well. I wanna know, sorry. But he was also a really prolific songwriter, and he was the writer behind the song. So she tells the story about how the song came about and why she ended up singing lead on this song.
And everybody else that I'm not singing anymore, I'll just do the backgrounds, because there was a lot of, why is she singing on everything? She's singing on every song. Y'all trying to set her up. So I said, I don't want to hear the song or nothing. So we went, and Joe wrote that song, the singer Joe.
Joe Thomas.
I was in New York.
Y'all know Joe, right?
Yeah.
Come on now. All the things.
Mm-hmm. So
I
went into the studio. Yeah, I went in the studio, and then all I knew was he played the record and just the background. So we went in and did the background parts. And then after that, he was like, who wants to do the lead? So I'm like, I'm not singing nothing. So Kandi went in first, and then she stayed in there for like 4 hours, and he came out, and he was like, that's not the sound that I'm looking for. That's not what I want. It's too hard, it's too rough.
Y'all shady out here. I don't appreciate it.
I promise, I'm telling a real story. It's the truth. It's my truth. And then Tiny was like, I'll go in there and try it. So she went in and tried it. I can't make this up. So she went and tried it, and I sat outside for hours and hours and hours, and I kept thinking, if Jermaine was here right now, he would cuss all of us out and say, y'all costing a lot of money. And so Joe comes back out. He was like, it's still not what I'm looking for. It's too like nasally. I need a little something. So I was like, I'm not singing. So he tells Rocky, like, why your wife not gonna sing the song? And so he takes him to the side and tells him what's going on. He was like, who cares about that? When I work with SWV, Coco's the one that does mostly everything. So what does it matter? They get paid the same.
I know she's been making little jabs and retelling or rewriting, I should say, of what's going on between her sister, and the rest of Xscape, and Kandi specifically. But I was not ready, first of all, for the Tiny impersonation.
Hell no.
That was a good one. But I also wasn't ready for her to shade Tiny, because she seems to be always in a good place with Tiny. But you remember during the Soul Train Music Awards, where they were being celebrated for the Lady Soul Award and Lady of Soul Award, and Tiny kind of gave her rolled her eyes at her on stage. So she retells the story, and she's basically saying that, well, Kandi went in there and she was in there for 4 hours, and the guys aren't not taking the shade. She's making a shady comment by saying that Kandi was in there for 4 hours, meaning that she was in there too long. And then she talked about, Tiny. She imitates Tiny and says Tiny went in and she was in there for hours. Look, y'all gonna stop sleeping on Tiny when it comes to her vocal ability. Go back to that verses where Tiny is singing live. Tiny can sing her face off. But here's the thing, not every song is for every voice. Okay, here's my musical background coming in. Not every song can be sung. Remember on American Idol when they were doing the Gloria Estefan week? Look. I'm taking you all the way back. And I said, oh, this is such a perfect example that not everyone, first of all, there are probably like a handful of people that can sing a Gloria Estefan song. But in general, not every song is for every voice. And any group will tell you that there are certain songs where I sounded better on lead, like Just Kicking It. Kandi sounds great on a song like that because of her tone and her register. Every man look like that is such a perfect song for her voice, and not necessarily for someone that is a soulful voice. Even when okay, don't get all rowdy in the comments section, but you know what I'm saying. There are differences, but that is what makes the magic of Xscape. When those voices come together, that is the magic of Xscape. That is the Xscape. So she retells this story, and Joe, she says, why does your wife not want to lead? She's talking to Rocky. Why does your wife not want to, sing lead? Oh, because singing lead, there's issues in the group. The group doesn't like it when she's always singing lead. I feel as if at this point, Latasha's the one making the biggest issue of her singing lead. Kandi has said that, yeah, she did have issues with her singing lead during the third album because she felt as if they were setting Latasha up for her solo project, which affected the money that they received for the third album. But if you're familiar with Xscape, all of them sang lead. And she brings up the example of, well, he brought up, SWV, Coco sings the lead, but they all get paid the same, which according to many sources, that's not true for SWV. I'm not going to be in their pockets, but I've heard, no, Coco, rightfully so, because Coco's doing the lead. I'm watching Coco performances. I'm like, she deserves to be paid more. You know how much it takes to, first of all, to sing lead. And I mean, background, shout out to the backgrounds. That's important. But to sing the lead, to sing full on out every single night or on an album, she should be paid more. But that's all that Joe had that wrong. But Joe was like, why am I in it?
Why am I in it? And you could have did it. See how I get it wrong? Because you never apologized.
But we don't know if that's what he really said. And we don't know if that's the real story. Wait for it. Speak on it's coming.
Well, speak on it.
Speak on it's coming. I already know. She's going to handle a lot of stuff this week's episode of Speak On. It's going to be good. Kandi's not paying me, but she should at this point. No, don't pay me, Kandi, because they already think I'm paid by you. And then your fans think I hate you. No, I just love to twerk on the fence. Look, I just love to twerk on the fence. No, because I don't see things as necessarily black and white all the time. I live in gray. Well, not today. Okay? But speaking of the band, I have to say, what I got from her conversation with We Sound Crazy was that Kandi and Latasha agree on one thing when it comes to why the band Xscape has issues over the years. It's a lack of communication, and it's always sweeping things under the rug. Kandi said it, and Latasha said it. The biggest issue for Xscape is the business. They don't agree on the business. They don't agree on a manager, a team. That is their main issue. I don't know if it's the interpersonal issues. I don't think that's it. I think they still do not like each other, and you can't make people like each other. But I think that is it. I don't think they will ever heal. And I know you all thinking, get a Yanla. No, they need a professional, like someone with a degree in this. Yeah, I love me somebody Yanla, but come on. But at the end of the day, is it worth it? I know we want the music. I know we want the tours, but I'm not going to force people to be unhappy or in unhappy situations for my entertainment. I can go listen to the records. Just saying. Guys, I want to know your reaction to what Latasha had to say about Kandi and Tiny and their vocals. We can already tell she doesn't respect Kandi's vocals from her response video the other day. Be sure to check out everything, guys, that you missed in regards to the story if you're a little behind. Let me know your thoughts in those videos. And as always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Thanks for watching.
You bring the lighter, I got the fuse. You make a fire, I'll ask you. Follow me, lead it.